there to take care of the intermittent overflow. So once the storm is over with, they'll treat all that. And
Senator Sally?
All the secondary water would go down there when they had thousands of people that worked down there. And it was a problem, because a major problem for Fort Howard and some of their area. So what they had to do is they had to divert the water to other areas. So it wouldn't cause major problems. And that's what they've done. What they need to continue to do is find other ways where they can still minimize the water. But they will have to bring other water down there when it continues to build. When more businesses come, when more workers are there, they're gonna have to build that back up. How much more, I don't know, but in time, we will find out eventually. But again, you think about the things that were running down in Bethlehem Steel and all the water that they needed for cool down water. Personally, I know that because I worked down there, and a lot of people here did too. So all that secondary water that they had down there, they used it for very good reasons.
All right, a couple recycling questions. If there's no recycling on Monday, due to Monday being a holiday, what are the chances of recycling pickup the next day?
I hope they do it. Not just to say no. I think that what they need to do is to reschedule on holidays, for instance. They can reschedule that for you, so they can get the recycle. I recycle constantly. I think it's important that everybody does that, but if you don't do that, I'm trying to encourage you. But I think we can reschedule that to whatever day that you get that day, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because I know they're different. Maybe one day that week they can reschedule.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's 2 weeks now that we don't have pickup for recycle. This coming Monday will be 3 weeks.
Let's see what we can do to work with our sanitation engineers and see what we
But
can do to
there's
help
no
them.
reason why they can't come back the next day and pick it up. They do it for trash. So people are putting their recycle out for trash now because it's too much for them to handle. This happens every holiday, it's on a Monday.
You're right. And that's why we need to work with them and see if we can reschedule that for maybe the following day.
And who do you call to get the bridge at the Bear Creek on North Point Road? You said it's a county problem, but why aren't you as politicians working to service the community? There was 4.5 feet of water there the day the fire truck got stuck. I'm sorry, that was 3.5 feet that day. The highest point of level there was 4.5 feet. I had the signs put in. I had street lights put in for the people. There's trees blocking the street lights, and the property owners need to cut their trees so that people can walk along the road there.
Mr. Seaman, is that you?
You're welcome.
Good to
And
talk to you.
I also put in a lot of those other things that the gentleman read to you about
Good.
they're necessary for the community to have.
Absolutely.
We've
Good.
been neglected here.
Absolutely. The answer to that is you have to convince the county to reprioritize its spending. I think the bigger question about trash is pickups twice a week. I think the biggest thing that's disserviced us is that we don't have more pickups for actual trash. And that's led to a lot of the rat problems. And that applies not only to our trash pickup, which is a county procurement issue, but stormwater investment, which is related to what you have on your property, what the problems that your neighbor has on his property, and the problems at the bridge. You're absolutely right. This area especially has been not so focused on whether you're talking about trash or water runoff. And that needs to change at the county level.
Yeah, they used to have 2 pickups, and that's why the rat problem occurred.
In a large way,
And
you're
they
right.
penalize the people too much for not having their lid on the trash can. They come around whenever they put the trash out and penalize them because they have a bag, because the trash can gets blown away.
Right.
They don't put the trash cans back in the yards or put the lids back on, and they're penalizing the people too much for a problem that the trash man has caused to begin with.
Right. Well, it's not the trash man. It's the elected. It's the investment. you know, people expect the fundamental services of government. Picking up trash is pretty commonsensical. It's become a public health issue here throughout Baltimore County. Frankly, the great thing of what's happened is that a lot of community associations have advocated for this. They got a pilot program put in place for investment in that. We're seeing a lot of communities, I think most of them are here in southeastern Baltimore County that are operating that, and they've seen a lot of positive outcomes. And I think that's something that needs to continue, whether you're talking about trash pickup or stormwater remediation or code enforcement, because a lot of that, especially, like what does code enforcement have, like 30 or 40 people for the entire county? People expect first and foremost the fundamentals of local government. So I agree with a lot of what you said
Maybe
there.
they have too many inspectors.
I don't think they have enough, because people are crying out for code enforcement, and they're just so short-staffed, they're weeks out.
Some things we have to learn to accept too.
Thank you, Delegate.
Thank
On
you.
the 4th of July, numerous injuries are occurred by fireworks. I know one youngster who had fireworks in a glass jar. His face is badly scarred. Another almost lost his finger on a sparkler. A law needs to be enacted in Baltimore County prohibiting the sale and use of fireworks, as Baltimore City has done. This would reduce calls for service to our police and fire department. Who would like to address this? Delegate Long?
I'll never say that I brought fireworks as a kid, because I did firecrackers. It is a law. I think you're only allowed to have sprinklers. Anything that they sell out alongside the road, you can have. Anything with explosive or gunpowder is against law throughout the state, not just the county, but throughout the state. Unfortunately, you can go right across the Maryland line to Pennsylvania and buy whatever you want. Parents have to be more responsible for letting their kids get into this. And that's one of the problems we're having, not only in schools. Parents have to start being parents again.
Thank you.
And they have to be taught that there are consequences.
Anyone else can address this one?
Personal problems in your own home.
Okay.
Why people go away?
How would you address the increased health care premiums, which have occurred recently, in which I saw a 100% increase? Senator Sally?
Repeal the Obama Health Care Act. Bottom line, it's got to be repealed. It's something that has caused a lot of problems with individuals, with businesses, and with just about anybody, unless you depend upon the state. It's a matter of fact that people that work and work hard, especially the middle class, they are subject to paying more than anybody else. And it's a major problem. So if you repeal that health care act, you can find other ways to making sure that the middle class is not held accountable and not responsible for everybody else's Medicare. I think a long time ago, you didn't have to, I'd say probably over 8, 9 years ago, you did not have to pay when you go to a hospital. The hospital, the specialist, and every other part, after you were done 4 or 5 times, you had one payment. Now, you have 4 or 5 payments. Why? Because you gotta pay a specialist, because you gotta pay the x-rays, because you gotta pay everything else. That's why right now, I believe it's broke. When you have a medical card, and you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, that card should, when you go to the hospital, or when you go see your doctor, or patient first, or wherever you go, it should take care of it all. You should be held accountable paying 5 or 6 different payments. It's a major problem. And I think that's one of the major problems.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you this, that our health care is in a real crisis. Just because you see things, I need to tell you this. I heard out of his mouth from the CEO of Blue Cross and Blue Shield, probably have a year, maybe 2 years left of Blue Cross and Blue Shield. We only have about 2 carriers, 3 carriers at the most. You have Kaiser, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and Cigna, I believe, just recently pulled out. Folks, this healthcare crisis is still a crisis, and we need to really begin to, as a community, as a people, talk to our federal elected officials, because we need to really get down to the brass knuckles of this. It's a deep, deep trouble. As you know, I don't have to tell you, when you look at what your insurance paid and what you have to pay, how many gets those things in the mail that said, this is not a bill? Well, my mother-in-law gets it all the time. It said, honey, they paid me this or paid that, but I got to pay this. Ladies and gentlemen, it has gone up of what you're having to pay and what they pay. So it's a crisis that is still boiling. It's a soft boil right now, but I'm telling you folks, it's gonna rise back up.
Comment on healthcare? Okay. Has the governor or the comptroller proposed changes to the tax system to offset federal changes? That's one question. And the follow-up is, will the Democrats in the General Assembly go along with this? Delegate Long?
Yes, he has. The only people that's going to be hurt, if you pay more than $10,000 in property taxes, and you'll see an increase. I have all the talking points on tax reform and the job creation that the president has put through. I'm telling you what, you're going to see it in your paychecks in February. When you go to file your taxes, you're going to see it. The double child care, I mean, there's all kind of things in here. Like, if you start picking, like I said, if you start picking things out, it doesn't look good. You were talking about taking away your mortgages. That's all still in there. It's a business-friendly tax break, and it's also friendly towards the taxpayers. There's seven different brackets that the president actually lowered. And the governor's already said that he's going to come out with legislation to help anyone that's going to be hurt by this. Let's face it, there's a lot to this. A lot of people don't know exactly what's going on. I don't know how, I think the bill is probably 6 inches thick. So we're going to have to, I'm sure the governor's going to look into that. He's already made that announcement. Whether it'll get through the House or the Senate, that's a good question. Because I'll tell you a real quick story. I met with one of the leaders in Annapolis, went down talking about my new legislation, talking about tax credits. She looked at me and she said, Bob, new tax credits. I said, why? She said, because of the budget. I said, okay, that's fine. She says, my job is to make the governor look bad, and your job is to make the governor look good. And I'm just sitting there thinking, why don't we just work together? You know, let's work for the people.